Alright, so as we load into this game, I know what I'm about to do. I'm going to write the clickbait article. Exodium releases on stream that
Shadow Nexus is
not
free.
a competitive organization.
You can. I mean, Aya knows it. We all know it. It's not a big deal.
Reveals that they throw tournament victories in order to maintain
Ooh,
their
pure-hearted
appearance.
singer. Oh, yes.
Okay, so sorry, Rainy, but we got to talk about this PTP deck real quick, okay? So this PTP deck, one of the most interesting ones I've ever seen. A, because it only runs 2 PTPs, which is fine for a PTP deck, but it only runs 4 cards, I believe, that cost more than 2 play points. It runs Singers, it runs PTPs, and it runs a lone Fairy Beast. It's like 4 or 5 cards above 2 costs. Everything else under 2, ton of the new costs, ton of the new cards. Very interesting list.
Definitely. He has 19 one-drops and 16 two-drops.
Yeah. And of course he's playing Elf Song. He's playing like a kind of like a standard aggro like beginning, but he's got like PTP and like control like built into just 2 drops and 1 drops. It's kind of a marvel to see. I'm sure you guys will have fun after today playing this deck as well after getting this list, because I'm gonna try this deck. The only
I mean, any PTP, of course.
Yeah. It'll get people's attention. The only thing that I see that's kind of odd about it is that it's choosing to run Goblin over Water Fairies. What do you think about that?
That is extremely... I noticed that next to the 2 Mystic Rings instead of 3 Mystic Rings.
Right.
Like, might as well, right? Like, why not play 3 of them? That is weird, because Water Fairy, you know, being that 1 drop, same thing as Goblin, you know, gives you a shadow when it dies, but it also puts a fairy in your hand, so... Maybe it's the extra toughness with Elf Song? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
maybe.
It could be. I mean, that's literally the only reason it could be, right? Extra toughness. Maybe you're fighting against an aggro meta. You don't want to trade so much. You want to be able to push some advantage. So, giving up a shadow. Ooh.
It's not often you see a white paladin actually get value, but here it is.
Yep,
on the
perfect
NGE
case
Shadowverse
Open. Right. Absolutely perfect. Chooses not. Okay. Chooses to keep the 4
Wow,
there.
drawing both your Path to Purgatories in like, what, your first 10 cards? That might be why he's playing 2. They're both animated. He might be why he's playing 2.
Right. I mean, that's probably also why he's playing Mystic Ring. So Mystic Ring also great in a PTP deck, because it can put your PTPs back in your deck before you Altered Fate. Especially in a hand like this. Like, you don't want to Altered Fate, but you kind of have to. And you're not going to be able to while these 2 PTPs are there. So maybe if he draws Mystic Ring soon, he can just put 1 back and then Altered Fate. Or this might just be a game where he can't Altered Fate.
Well, he's going to probably have to spend one of his upcoming turns just slapping one of them down, which is, you know, kind of doable against a slower sword deck. If this were aggro sword, he would have automatically lost already with this draw.
Yep.
But it's kind of doable. You can kind of justify it here.
It's also relevant because mid-range sword and sword in general really doesn't have ways to pop amulets. So slamming down some PTPs isn't the biggest problem. Like, that can sit there for the rest of the game.
Right, and these are open deck lists. It's not like your opponent cares if you're playing Path to Purgatory. It's like, ha, I already knew that, nerd. So,
right.
Like, he doesn't care.
So, for those of you who don't know how Path to Purgatory works, even after looking at the card, building up to 30 shadows takes a while, right? Of course, we see Piao over here only sitting at 6 right now, needs to get to 30 before that activates. And that's where cards like Altered Fate, discarding your entire hand and drawing a new hand of that many cards, basically gets put into action. That's also why all these fairy generation cards are in here, like, you know, Fairy Circle and Elf Song and Wood of Brambles and all of those things that generate tons of cards that can then turn into shadows over the long term. And then Path to Purgatory is just come out to then just deal 6 or 12 every single turn to everything your opponent has to just clean up the game, finish it out, all that kind of goodness.
It's like a giant Mega Grimner, if you're not familiar with it.
Right.
But Path to Purgatory hits face still, so.
Yes, it does. Path to Purgatory will end the game by itself if you can get to 30 shadows. Okay, so we see a very defensive setup from Omega here.
Oh yeah, ooh, even finding a Fairy Beast here too. He's gonna ditch it though, I think. Yep.
Even ditches the Path to Purgatory, interesting. Oh my god, another Altered Fate. Decides to wait on it though.
Fairy Whisperer along with May though. That's pretty good. This May has a 66% chance on a good shot.
One-time dealer.
Probably wants to hit the ward. Be the best hit. Nice.
Nice.
Okay. Good job.
Winning that lotto. Always like to see Elfchild May finding her man. That's what she does. She's got the red devil eyes. She knows how to get it done.
This is looking actually kind of bad for Piao though. He's not gonna get. I don't think he can get P. Maybe he can get PTP online this turn, but if he doesn't, he's in trouble. He's dead if he doesn't. So
he will need to find another altered fate for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely has a shot to. And that's, again, even not just putting PTPs back into your deck, but putting Altered Fates back into your deck so you don't double up on them in your hand. Also very powerful. Mystic Ring
if he just Altered Fates and throws his board in, if he just Altered Fates throws his board in, he's 27 shadows, right? Because he gains 8 from his hand. No, he gains even more from his hand. I forgot that Elsong gave you 2 fairies. Yeah, so he gains 9 from his hand. He's at 29. He has to cast 1 spell, so PTP is active.
Oh yeah, doesn't even need to have the second Altered Fate. And with things like Airbound Barrage to help him out this turn, 2 Airbound Barrages even, gonna be able to clean this board up quite nicely.
Well, the board is dead already, like, if he casts 1 spell, so...
That's true, that's true. Honestly, too many interactions to keep track of in 1 second.
Yeah. If you Mystic Ring the Brambles back in, you can just Roach combo next turn.
You could also, if you really wanted to, Airbound Barrage and pick up your PTP and then just throw it away. That's my favorite.
Solid plan.
Solid play. So decides to clear board anyway, even though he had PTP active.
Front guard has to come down, period.
Yes.
It's the most mana efficient play anyway, so...
Yeah, it's very interesting from this point to see if Omega can even win. He has no Storm Followers in hand, and realistically, Piao doesn't even need to play anything.
Yeah, he's gonna surrender. Yeah. He knows, dude. He knows.
He knows. PTP is that end game.
Once PTP is active, mid-range sword can't win. There's nothing they can do. Like, if you don't have Evolves for Albert, you can't do anything.
Right. You'd have to have a running string of Storm cards, which he just did not have access to. Obviously, that Fangblade Slayer could come down to slap for a few points of damage, but like we said, Piao literally didn't need to play anything for the rest of the game. That PTP sitting in play is lethal by itself, and with the Roach in hand, could speed it up at any time.
Path to Purgatory.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Making it to top 8, doing well with it. Maybe Roach Force isn't the only way to go. Yes, you play Roaches in Force, but it doesn't have to be your main avenue. Not always. And this is the deck that I was really looking forward to see again. I really want to see if this can put in some work, especially against a sword deck now. This is a mid-sword, not completely aggro, so probably has a better chance against it.
It's got a way better chance against it, I would imagine, yeah.
So have you tried Aetherwing, Aether of the White Wing at all this expansion yet?
I didn't open any, and I was crafting more important things like Loki and Medusa, cards that aren't very good.
Oh, okay. I see. Yes.
So...
Loki is a prime example of a card that you should be crafting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. Prime example of a card. Piao showing off his Daria sleeves. He actually has the Daria alt leader, so...
Jealous.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing that I want to say about Piao's deck, especially for those of you looking at the deck list after the tournament, are he is playing the Aether, but his package isn't complete. He's not running a 7-drop, which I find kind of alarming. Not having an option for one of your turns, unless he really just doesn't care what happens on that turn. And he's playing 3 Aegis, which I don't know if you need to play that high of an amount if you are playing the tutor package. So kind of some interesting choices in his list.
It is pretty interesting. I think maybe he just wants the he just wants Aetherwing to pull Cleric Lancer every time, unless it pulls Aegis.
But he is playing Dark Johns. So there is kind of like this sidestep that he has
to do. Never mind. There's a conflict there. You're right.
Yeah, so there's kind of a conflict. Like, yes, he wants to pull Cleric Lancer on 6, but on turn 7 and turn 8, it doesn't really do anything. He's kind of got a gap in his tutor package, which is just interesting design is all.
Yeah, won't show you the fanfare of Dark Gen, so would be kind of useless.
Okay. Here we go. We see Omega doing his aggro sword impression right now.
Omega's hand is very low. This is bad.
Yes, this is bad. When you're playing kind of like a grindy matchup, like a mid-range versus a control, you want a lot of your card draw, your tutors, that kind of stuff, and he just doesn't have it. He's got a nice little early aggressive start, but that's not really what this deck aims to do.
Yeah, right. To be fair, this is pre-Themis, and he's going in pretty hard, so...
That's true. That's true. This is pre-Themis, and there's not really a good answer other than just that
Actually, he might just
Lancer.
win. I think he just wins. Yeah, because Cleric Lancer dies to the Bane. And he takes, yeah. He takes 8.
That is just lethal. That is just lethal, yeah.
He's just dead.
So,
oh, never
forget
mind.
aggro sword suppression.
I derped completely and didn't realize I could attack the 2-2. The 2-2 had ward also.
So it's not lethal. Okay.
It's the one.
I was going along with you. I thought you did.
It's
I thought
one
you
off
did
now.
the math. You know, Envy, you're messing me up, but that's okay.
I counted the 2-1 involved. That was in my math.
So doing his best impression, better than a regular impression. This is a pretty good impression. So even if he doesn't win this turn and he doesn't have a lot of cards in his hand, it does open up the option for Albert to kind of just be lethal by turn 9, and he doesn't really have to do anything until then. So he did a really good impression, good enough so much so that Piao is down to 4. And there's still an Evo for Omega. Could be at 1.
Fencer coming down, so Themis is 100% going to get played. He's going to slap it down so fast.
Interesting to see the Floral Fencer be played, knowing that Themis is kind of like the only real answer to this, but not a big deal. The Floral Fencer is probably not going to do anything.
Yeah, I really don't understand what the Floral Fencer was doing there. I don't understand what it would have done that everything else on the board wasn't already doing.
Yeah. So yeah, realistically, Omega's hand kind of looks junky right now, but like it doesn't need to look good. He can, like we said, he can just sit there and just wait it out. Being at 3 health is not where Piao wants to be, especially against a deck that can jam something that can deal 10 damage right off the top.
Jino over front guard general going to create 2 bodies, both threaten lethal, but it's not going to matter. There it is, Dark Jun, the whole reason right there. Completely. It's to kill 2 1/1s.
That's right. Dark John's still not a bad card. Not amazing like she used to be, but definitely a role player. Kind of weird. Yeah, definitely a role player.
Hey, it's lethal.
Hey, storm off the top.
It won't be long now.
Council of Card Knights every
Kinda
time.
what
Every
Sword
single
does,
time.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, Stormcraft's pretty good.
Every time we think Sword just is gonna do nothing, they top deck Council of Card Knights and they do a lot of somethings.
It's caster curse. They're just gonna always have Council of Card.
That's right. That's right. Well, looks like Omega's got nothing. Oh, yep. All right.
Never mind.
If this Haven deck doesn't win a single game, I'm going to be very sad. Not just for myself, but for Aya, because I know he loves Haven and he really likes Aiga's Haven. If it can't pull out a game here in the top 8, I'm going to be very sad.
Aya will be fine. He's watching Forrest win games, and that's his favorite
That's
faction.
true.
Anyway,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Mother, father, come on.
So now we get to see kind of an older matchup, right? Mid Shadow versus Aiga's Haven. This is newer Aiga's Haven, and Mid Shadow hasn't changed too much. Maybe a few cards off with the Dark Blade Fiend and also the Ceres, but other than that, pretty much the same.
I want to say this
being said,
matchup should be bad for Shadow. Don't you agree? Maybe.
Should be, but Shadow, essentially the Haven Shadow matchup is realistically just, can Shadow manage its shadows well enough to actually get full use out of all of their cards, whether it be Ektar, because this is the type of deck where you actually want to produce the zombies from Ektar, just to have like that constant board fill, because essentially it's a battle of Haven trying to board clear every turn and Shadow trying to board fill every turn once it gets to stages like turn 6, 7, 8, that kind of thing, and realistically it's whoever runs out of gas first. But with Dark Johns being very good against Shadow, this is kind of the matchup you want him for. Just gives you extra board clears alongside Themis. So
that is true. Dark
Johns
much more useful, yeah. Omega opting to summon the Soul Squasher there instead of Demon Eatering his Skull Beast, just try and get some damage on the board. He's gonna get punished pretty hard by double Black and Scripture here.
Yeah. Black and Scripture are also very good against Shadow. Not only does it remove the follower, it removes the last words, and they don't get the Shadow for the follower itself. So basically just muting what Shadow can do. And this is, if Haven gets the right cards, this is what it can do against Shadow. So definitely in a good position Piao is right now.
Not to mention, Piao has drawn all 3 of his globes, and he is very far ahead of cards.
Yes, and not going to slow down in card advantage anytime soon. Probably even debating if he even wants to play this Sacred Plea right now.
Too many cards.
Too many cards, too many board spaces, don't know if want.
I think he's fine for it. He still has room to pop the Arya next turn and not lose his Tiger. So he actually doesn't do it. Interesting.
Just doesn't want to pop both the Globe and the Sacred Plea on the same turn. Interesting to see Sacred Plea in the Aegis deck anyway, with Globe being a nice little replacement for it. But you know what? If you like 1-drops, it's definitely a good option.
Globe and even I've seen we were just talking about this card. Staircase is just like really good. You know, like it only draws followers, but I mean that could be awesome for you. Like it could be Aegis, you know, every time. So.
Yeah, so when the set was first released, Staircase to pretty much everyone, as far as I know, looked like a good card, and it could be used in combo decks and all that kind of stuff. I really think that Staircase is actually going to see more and more play as people get used to it, because it's just a really nice card. It's just a card that kind of sits there unassumingly, and then all of a sudden you just have way more card advantage than your opponent. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely insane.
Decks.
Yeah, it is.
It's just really good value. And here we get to see the Cleric Lancer beats. Doing its jam.
That 5/6 ward, pretty good.
Pretty good. Cleric Lancer not often played, but with the printing of Aether of the White Wing, might be the 5-drop of choice for Haven, actually. I can't really think of something better. Like, you don't want to pull Sonya with it, right? Because Sonya likes to be the only follower left in play.
Also wouldn't trigger anyway, so.
Wouldn't trigger. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other 5-drop I'd want to pull with Haven right now.
Well, if you could choose, it would probably be, well, the Fanfare wouldn't trigger, never mind. If you could pull Amulets, you could pull March Hares, but the Fanfare wouldn't trigger.
Right. Or, I guess it can pull Tenko, so if you're playing like an Alana's based Haven deck, then maybe Tenko would be a good pull, so kind of like a different variation.
You're forgetting the best option here. It can actually pull Eidolon.
Ooh, yes, okay. So, absolutely right. But then again, Aether of the White Wing plus Eidolon will take up 2 board slots, so it means that you can't have like a full board of Amulets when you do it.
That's true. That is true. Well, you could just, put up 4 Amulets and then banish the Eidolon. He's probably just as useful, really.
So Omega went for the gamble there, losing the gamble.
He lost the gamble, yeah.
Yeah. Now this Tiger gets to go face. That's a lot of damage, especially with a Dark John in hand that could get aggressive if this Priest stays alive. So, I guess not known for its aggro, but sometimes when it sticks big followers, it can just kind of punch face.
I mean, if you hit him with Tigers 3 times, he's dead.
Right, exactly.
It's lucky for Omega that the Dark Gen couldn't come down without popping that Tiger also, because that would have been really bad.
Yeah, really bad. Lots of damage. It's actually very heads up to get the 1 damage on it right now, knowing that there are Dark Johns in Piao's deck. So even though it was a gamble, it still kind of prohibits the Dark John play. So not the worst gamble of all time by any means.
Piao is very heavily considering this evolve. It's his last evolve, so.
He forced out the Priest of the Cudgel and then thought about the evolve. So maybe a little hesitation in his thought process. Ooh, and decides not to Evo.
Okay. I actually like that, I think.
Okay. Okay, so
it's
maybe
not often
maybe
that
kind
he
of just
does
like
anything
switch
if it
decisions.
doesn't evolve, so.
That's true. But yeah, even on the competitive stage, guys, I mean, sometimes you think you're making a decision, then all of a sudden you're like, wait. Maybe that's not what I want to do. Mid kind of play, and then just kind of switch up your mind. As long as it leads towards the game plan that you want it to, it's not a bad choice. It's actually one of the things I had to train myself out of as a young competitive player was if you make a mistake in a game, just kind of brushing it off your shoulder as opposed to like letting it suck you down, right? Because you can really focus on a mistake that you make and just be like, crap, I lost the game because of this mistake. But realistically, if you compose yourself, you come back, and you just kind of continue playing without making more mistakes, for the rest of the game, you can still win that game. So don't get down on yourselves for making a mistake, even if it's mid-turn.
Very good definition of tilt there.
Yes.
Dark Jun making a 5 attack Priest of the Cudgel. Really not that big of a deal, though, honestly, for Omega to deal with this.
And realistically, even saying that, it might not have been a mistake for Priest. It might have been his line of play. I'm just saying that could have been a good example of it.
Right. I mean, it did give the impression, the way he thought about it for a very long time, it did give the impression that he second-guessed himself, so. Omega has plenty of plays available.
Blade
Goes
Fiend
for a
is
Dark Blade Fiend.
good.
Yeah,
I love
Dark
this
Blade
card right
insane.
now.
I know just what
I
you
thought this
want.
card was just okay, but like after seeing it in practice, like time after time, this card is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, him and Ceres are incredible. I think in New Shadow.
Well, Ceres was like on my radar immediately. I thought Ceres was the best card in the entire set as soon as the set got released, but Blade Fiend has been proven to be just as potent in the 5-drop slot, and it just giving mid-range Shadow just all these new options that it never had before.
Necro 2 is really good, like really good. Triggers almost always he has ward, very powerful follower.
Just simply adding a new ward follower to the deck outside of Death's Breath and on a turn earlier just gives it a whole new dimension of this game plan that you can put together with it, which I really like.
Right. Because
So
previously, if you wanted
turn-
that, you had to play like Commander Destruction, which just didn't work.
Right. And next turn, we're going to see, like, kind of what I was talking about with the whole of the Aether of the White Wing. So, like, realistically, he does have a Taurus. So Taurus is actually not a bad play here. But there's not a whole lot of options at the top end, and he might even want to save it for turn 10 to pull the Aegis at this point. I don't know if Taurus is really good enough here, especially because he can just Themis.
Yeah, I think Themis is probably the better play. You unfortunately pop your Arya off the board, but this is an obvious setup for Eekter, and you kind of have to get rid of it.
Right.
Let me ease your pain.
And then I believe naturally Thane will come down. I don't know if there's actually a better play to fill up the board than a Thane. Well, he might go with the Death's Breath here. I don't think so. I don't think he wants to use the Shadows like that.
Probably not. I mean, if he's going to go for Death's Breath, you might as well go for Zombie Party instead.
That's true. That's true. Zombie Party is a good play here as well. And you have to kind of expect, like, you know your opponent's playing Aether of the White Wing. They have 3 Aegis. They have 3 Aethers. You're pretty much expecting Aegis next turn. So that's kind of like what you're thinking about right now with Omega. Especially with the Sacred Plea popping.
Okay, so he goes for Thane into Zombie Party. So instead of 3 zombies, he plays Thane.
I don't like using the Zombie Party here as just a straight removal spell because I think the board clears are super important, or the board fills rather. So using one of them like that might have cost you a turn or some value. But interesting decision. And I imagine if you're going to play the Aegis, you'd rather just play the Aether just to pull an Aegis out of your deck. Just seems like a better overall play to me. He might be thinking about Themising again, though.
Themis into Cudgel's not bad, I think, personally.
It means that... Okay. He wants to Cudgel first.
The sky is weak.
Ooh, just Cudgel. Okay. This is interesting.
Okay.
So he's going to evolve the Cudgel, I think?
Yeah, I guess that would be the play.
I see your weakness.
Get rid of both of the whites.
So then this would basically say I would Death's Breath here, right? So that I can maybe protect my 4/5 and keep pushing damage, not take any damage from this Aegis. But of course we can see a Themis in hand on the side of Piao. Which does a great job alongside of Aegis to just wipe out the board and continue attacking. Ooh, okay.
Maybe it goes for Eekter instead.
Maybe feels like this is the last turn he can actually get some damage in with it.
It's possible. As well as if he pops Themis on this, then that means Death's Breath will
really
actually
good follow-up turn.
Yeah, he
Death's
does.
Breath and the White King. I like this play from Omega.
I do, yeah. Same. He also heals 2 off series.
Yeah. And unless there's like an actual good follow-up, like, you know, a Themis or a big board wipe next turn, this might just be a game-winning play that Omega just put together.
He unfortunately won't gain Ward and Bane, but whatever. That doesn't actually matter, so...
Nope, just getting damage.
Oh my gosh! What in the world? No!
Oh, amazing! See, Piao knows it.
Sugoi.
Unreal. What a top deck. Wow. So Aegis did win a game, and it will move on to possibly win more games. I'm kind of happy about it. I'm sorry, Omega. I'm very sorry.
Oh my god. Right in the time of need. It's that... I feel like it's been a while since we've seen an insane top deck. I mean, we've seen a few top decks in the playoffs of Season 2.
Well, we've seen a lot of top deck Council of Card Knights. While they might not feel amazing